Join us for an inspiring conversation with Dr. Carolyn Harris, with a specialist interest in mitochondrial research at Thrive Family Practice, along with Olaf Sorensen, strength trainer and son of the co-founders of Grassland Nutrition. Together, they explore transformative natural health protocols that recharge your body from the inside out. From the science of mitochondrial research to practical insights on circadian rhythm, strength training, grounding or earthing, cold exposure, and photobiomodulation, or PBM. This episode is packed with actionable tips and expert knowledge to empower you to take your health into your own hands. Plus, they share really exciting plans for the Recharge Health meetups that are launching in Adelaide next year, a movement designed to connect communities and inspire individuals on their journey to optimal wellness. Dive in.
Hey, Olaf.
Good to see you, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us down to your beautiful place.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Beautiful day.
You can't sell it now because we want to come down and visit. So,
Okay, good. Yeah, all right.
So there's
Right.
that.
Have to
Just
keep
get
it.
that out of the way.
And it's nice to be seeing you at a time when I'm not going to myself, oh my God, I have to go in and see Olaf. Come on, I can do this.
And it's funny because most people say to me when we have a good workout, I hate you. And I'm sure you might feel the same way, but that's the biggest compliment you can give me. So, but it's nice not to be under that pressure, you know. So I thought, so we met a bit over 12 months ago.
Yeah,
I remember you just had your birthday.
that's right. Yeah.
And I think we've had over about 55 or 60 sessions once a week.
Yeah.
Rochelle Martin was the one that brought you to me.
Amazing,
Thank
Rochelle.
you, Rochelle.
Thank you, Rochelle.
And from there it's just sort of evolved. From my perspective, I had been in business about 4 or 5 years, about 6 years now, and it was going pretty good, but you've then created a problem for me over the last 12 months.
Sorry.
To the point where I now have a waiting list and no more room for new clients. So thank you for creating that problem. But yeah, it's been really interesting. We've sort of discovered, I think, a lot of things together. We talk a lot about light. I think we sort of almost started that journey at the same time.
I think you got your infrared.
Yes.
From Michael Liner, Lifespan
yes.
Dynamics. Yeah.
And then you got yours.
Yep.
I think 5 other people
Yeah.
that see you and see me have now got infrared belts.
Well, when you look into the research,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, how did I not know about this?
Yeah.
It is like proven. It's old technology, it's old research. It can reverse metabolic conditions. It can, it was at Jeffries was doing...
John Jeffries? Is it John?
Jeffries,
anyway. Yeah,
Jeffries, it'll come to me. Was shining infrared on people with type 2 diabetes on their backs for, I think it was 5 minutes, 3 times a week, and dropping their hemoglobin A1C in a way that no other medication was doing.
Yeah, that was pretty... I mean, that was just with the little torch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's nothing like the belt we actually...
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about... Because we often talk about how you're doing with your belt.
Oh.
But just... I'm always fascinated when you tell your story
Well,
about how you use it.
Yeah, so I use it at night. I'll lay it on myself and I'll usually just fall asleep with it. It just obviously gets my mitochondria, charges my mitochondria to do what they are meant to be doing at that time of the day. And then I'll use it first thing in the morning as well, because I've got it next to my bed, and it kind of charges me first thing in the morning and gets my energy for the day. So it's really interesting how it energizes you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do you use yours?
Mainly at night. I might sit on it up to, sometimes 2 hours.
Oh,
just
right.
on my
okay.
belly, on my back.
Yeah.
I probably had mine just only a little bit longer than you.
Yeah.
But I find I probably go to sleep more relaxed.
Yeah.
When I have it. But I sort of got into that at the same time as I was starting to get more aware of the sunlight.
Oh, yeah.
As well. So it's probably a combination of both. But mainly through winter time is where I seem to use it more intensely.
Yes.
And then as I'm getting more and more that natural light,
Yeah.
yes, you know, I'm a fanatic about being up at sunrise and being outside as the sun comes up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been so much fun these last 12 months to sort of discuss where we're at and what's happening, like just the red light, how you're finding it, how am I finding it, how our clients finding it.
It's really nice as a doctor to be able to say, I use this, I tried it out on myself first. You know, I've seen all the research about it, I've spoken to people about it, but then I've tried it out on myself first.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't say that about medication. And so to me, it's kind of like absolutely every change that somebody can make in order to get themselves better in some way and improve their health is a risk versus benefit opportunity. And so when it comes to the sort of things that I like to offer people, I like the risk to be really low and the benefits to be really high. And when you've got the research to back it up and the ability to say, and I do this myself, like, for example, your sort of exercise, I do that myself and I have found great benefits in my strengthening. And it's unlike any exercise that I've ever done, and I've been an exerciser my whole life. I thought I knew what there was to know about exercise, but you've taught me a lot. Do you want to explain a bit more about it?
I've learned myself too. I started, as you know, we might have talked about, I came actually from always done some sort of strength training, but up until 10 years ago I was heavily involved with long distance running, like double marathons, that sort of thing. And then I basically discovered Doug McGuff, which is kind of one of the pioneers of this type of exercise, short, intense strength training once or twice a week. And I just simply went from running 150 kilometres, my biggest week at that time, I think. I got introduced to Doug McGuff's material, and I could see the way I was exercising now, I wouldn't even define that as exercise. That was probably leading me down a really bad trajectory for my health. So I stopped doing long distance running from one day to the next, and ever since pretty much done his workout once a week for the last 10 years. One of the metrics I measured was I was outwardly lean. You could almost see a six-pack. Still can't. But because I did a lot of monitoring, like DEXA scans to monitor my body composition, I lost about 4 kilos of fat over the next 2 to 3 years, I think it was. So I did a ton less exercise, and then this happened. So it's like, well, it obviously doesn't work the way body composition is all about. You burn the body fat as you're moving. There's obviously something else at play. So I kind of learnt that exercise is purely a stress. It's actually a negative, kind of like a negative impact on your body as you're doing it. The body sees that high, intense, muscular effort, as you said, working to a high fatigue level where you cannot do any more. That is just the stimulus, the stress onto your body. Nothing happens in the gym. You're actually temporarily weakened, as you know, when you walk out the door.
Yeah, wobbly.
Jelly legs. But it's only when you stop, so the last exercise, and you walk out that door and you go back to eating, sleeping, having a good lifestyle, that's in those following days, that's where your body makes the adaptation. You know, you build a little bit more bone, but the body experiences stress in the bones. I go, oh, we need strong bones. If this stress comes along again, that's how your bones get stronger. Not while we were lifting the weight. Yeah.
Is that the myokines?
Yes, and that's because, so that's it. Now we open up a whole new can of, well, it's not a new can of worms. It's been around. We just had to go look for it. So the thing was with exercise, it was very much thought of the way I thought about it, the mechanical stress, say, on the bones. That's what stresses the bones. But now we know that it's more the muscle, the muscle stress, say just a stress on the muscle, that's, say, pulling on the bone, that's the mechanical stress. But but it's more so that stress overall in the body, muscle, bone, it's more that the body senses that, and then the muscle tissue acts as it is an endocrine organ that releases hormones that actually then go to the bone and tell it to build bone. So it's probably a combination of the actual stress in the bone, but it's more so that the muscle tissue kind of runs the whole thing. It sends these myokines to your organs, to everything, to say, hey, ramp it up, we're under stress, we need you to build more blood vessels, we need you to send more glucose in those hard times.
Can I ask you a question then?
Yes.
So if you're not providing your body with the necessary protein, because really there's essential proteins and essential fatty acids, aren't there? There's no essential requirement for a carbohydrate. So say you're not giving yourself the essential proteins and fatty acids to build that bone, what would happen?
Well, then you can't take, that's exactly what I mean. The exercise is just a stress.
Yeah.
And then it's actually more important what you do when you finished your workout.
Right.
Because you know how we often talk about, now you finish your session, now go and get stronger.
Yeah.
So, and that's obviously if your body don't receive the
so
protein it needs to build this new tissue, well, we might have had the most perfect session.
Yeah.
But then if you go and eat junk,
that
doesn't supply, as I say, with the nutrients, the building blocks, well, now it can't recover and get stronger. So the exercise is, yes, it's a vital part, but it's like 30 minutes once a week. How many hours between then to your next session? A lot. How many meals? How many sleep cycles? That's where the magic happens, not in the gym. It's kind of just a crude instrument to send, let's say, a shock to your body, so that your bones need to become stronger as you experience this stress. Your muscles need to perform better. But the magic happens when all the things you talked about there.
Yeah. So what do you tell people to eat after they've had a session with you?
I just tell them, now go and have a steak. And you can have a glass of red wine with it if you want, but make sure you have a steak. Yeah, that's what I have. So So it's simple, and coming back to the carnivore diet, it doesn't get much simpler than that.
It's so simple, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think we talked about off camera, we weren't actually sure who came to you or me first. It's kind of just this nice group of people that are on the same track.
Yeah.
And
eyes open.
Eyes open,
they're asking questions.
Yes.
And I think it's so much easier to be able to provide answers. Well, sometimes it's just direction, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the right pathway, because people have to find their own answers, don't they?
Yeah.
They have to find the right path for them, because everybody deserves to be treated as an individual. Everybody deserves to be treated that they are unique, because we all are unique, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, where we evolved in the world is, in our mitochondria, goes back hundreds of thousands of years, doesn't it? And we might look like we evolved in one part of the world, but we might actually have different mitochondria, and so you can't make assumptions.
No.
And so it's fascinating, I think, to just try and work alongside people to just troubleshoot all the way along the line and provide enough support so that they feel like, it's not working for me, whereas actually we will know when it's working, because you will feel more energy, you will feel stronger, you feel more motivated, you'll have more enthusiasm, your brain will be clearer, you'll be more focused, you'll be able to get out of bed in the morning and feel fabulous. It's amazing when it comes together.
Oh, it is, And I think that's where we sort of, working with these people together, we've come up with the idea, well, you've already kicked it off, of doing community talks. but we've been talking for a long time about doing something together.
Yeah.
So next year we're going to kick off a project. I think we've come up with a name, which is
Restorative health.
Restorative Health.
Yes.
So do you want to talk a bit about what that entails, what we've sort of got so far?
I suppose, correct me if I'm wrong, but, just pulling people, like-minded people together. And I think we start with the people who are common to us or interested in that space at Glenelg, if that works.
Yeah.
And then we start doing regular talks. People who are interested in this space, people who are curious and learning alongside of us, because the way I love to talk about things now is I am not the keeper of all the knowledge. I am simply another person who's learning, and I've got 61 years of experience now, and what I've learnt is that it's really good to apologise and then to say, I did get it wrong for a lot of years for chronic diseases, but I can help now, I believe, find a pathway forward into energy. And that is a pathway of just accepting our biology, understanding our biology, listening to the quantum biologists like Jack Kruse and the way they talk. And I love Max Gilhane and his work in this space, and all of the people that he speaks with, and I suppose then maybe, I don't know, do you think a monthly talk with a community, or
yeah, I
two
think
monthly?
It needs to be a regular thing, and then as we talked about, probably if we sort of get some momentum and there's enough interest, we've already got a location lined up in the Barossa, as we talked about.
Yeah.
One of my favourite winemakers, it's called Small Fry Wines, which have been biodynamic for over 20 years.
Wow.
And Wayne, the owner, knows pretty much everything there is about soil health and how that works with the sun. And so he's agreed to have the conference at his place.
Oh, great.
And be a speaker as well. He can speak on how soil health and growing food, they're starting to grow some food as well. So he'll be a nice addition to you and I to start with. But then obviously looking for more people like nutritionists, maybe Nicole Moore, Rochelle Martin, if you're listening.
Jonathan Martin.
Yeah.
Sally, Grassland Nutrition. Yeah. Your parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just trying to start to cover all aspects of what makes a body run.
Yes.
And it was just on the light part, my own journey, I think. We met, and soon after I went and had just a checkup for my physical, for the job I was doing at the time. And I noticed, and you noticed, that my inflammation markers were up. And I could not ever remember, and I think you looked back through my blood test and said they've never been up before. And I was curious because I felt pretty good, but I was pretty fatigued. And then it kind of dawned on me, because I was just starting to listen to a bit of Jack Kruse about sunlight. I've never shied away from sunlight. I haven't used sunscreen the last 20 years, but I wasn't thinking about it as important as I now do. There would be days where I basically didn't step outside the door. Well, I would start my other job, which was riding racehorses, as you know, early in the morning before the sun comes up. Under lights. I would get a little bit of sunlight as the sun came up, but then I would go home, and then I would train clients all day. And then I would step outside my door next morning when it was dark.
Right.
So I was basically not getting much sunlight. And I was spending a lot of time on my computer.
Yeah.
Inside, of course. And now I haven't had the blood test yet, but I know I feel a hell of a lot better after being almost a fanatic about getting sunlight, getting that initial morning light when the sun comes up, but also now I spend those 20 hours a week on the computer. I sit outside.
Yep.
Got all the windows open, changed the the lights in the gym, as you know, to non-blue lights.
Yes.
So that was one thing that I think it's revelation, a big revelation, and just seeing the impact. I mean, it was a gradual change.
Yeah.
But the energy just is so consistent. You know, there's one point when we met, I was thinking about I can't take on any more.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to get so fatigued. Fair enough, I quit the other job, but then I was still fatigued.
Yeah.
But the more I kept just doing the light thing, it's like, you know what, I actually wake up and I'm just good all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's been the big change? A ton more light, maybe the red light belt as well.
Yeah.
So that was just an aspect that I'd never shied away from the sun, but I didn't actually realise the importance of how much you probably needed to be in natural light.
Yeah.
So that was a little...
And that's backed up by the research, isn't it? So you've got... Max talks about it on his podcast.
Yes,
beautifully.
When you dig into it, it's nothing new under the sun,
It's
no
not.
pun intended.
Yeah, a 30-year piece of research by Pell Lindqvist.
Yes, Pelle Lindqvist,
Yeah.
Swedish researcher.
Researcher, yeah, and obstetrician gynecologist.
Right.
But he was looking, he was looking for the cause of melanoma, and so they asked 4 questions of women, older women. They said they were looking at middle-aged women because they're more likely to die within 30 years. So they didn't want younger women because they wanted hard endpoints. They didn't want just a diagnosis of melanoma because they were looking for melanoma and what causes melanoma. And so they were looking at women who sought out the sun, and they asked them, do you actively sunbake? Do you use sunbeds? Do you go on holidays? And there was one other question. But they basically showed that women who sought out the sun lived longer and had less incidence of heart disease.
Yes.
And it's like, actually, it just makes sense, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And on the note, what I've seen in my little clientele, when I started really delving in more, and I think it was Jack Cruz that said, you cannot lose weight without morning sun.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a few clients that always asked me about weight loss, and yes, we see the needle move a little bit with strength training.
Yeah.
But that's a different role, and I've always but my advice was, well, that's your diet. I can get you strong, but if you're fueling up on sugar, you're still going to accumulate body.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my mind was at. Then I started feeling change in myself, and then I just started repeating, you can't lose weight without morning sunlight. Now I've had 4 people who took it seriously.
Yeah.
And I think we know who we're talking about. They're clients of yours as well. One's lost 11 kilos.
Amazing.
Another girl came to me, and it was only her second session, and she had lost a lot of weight before she came to me, but it had kind of stalled out. She wanted to lose more.
Plateaued, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember distinctly telling her this, and then she didn't come next week because she was sick. So between telling her the first time that you need morning sunlight, I said, just watch the sun.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk diet.
Yeah.
She came back and lost 4 kilos, I believe, was in
Amazing.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
She said, I didn't even do anything. Yeah, I didn't even do my regular walking like I normally do. How does that work?
Yeah.
And that has actually continued.
Yeah.
And it's happened with another few people.
Oh,
And that's the only thing they changed,
brilliant.
was just get up, watch the morning sun.
And look at the risk versus benefit.
Yeah.
You kind of like, well, what's the risk in that?
Yeah.
What's the risk in following your intuition and your biology?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Yeah.
It's not like, how much is that going to cost me going out in the sun? Nothing.
Yeah, that's right. What's the side effects?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Nothing for morning and evening sunlight, nothing.
So now I'm more or less of the opinion, it's great that you come and do strength training, but if you don't see the morning sun,
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Yeah.
It's good, but you're not going to get as much benefit. And I've seen these same 4 people also, the strength took a leap forward again. Because we go through plateaus, we come up, we might even go back.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of what you call peaks and valleys over time.
Mm.
And especially one person, it was like, what's just happened?
Yeah.
You know, like this is just on a upward curve again.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be somebody that started watching the sunrise.
Yeah.
So there's a performance-enhancing drug for you.
Yeah. And you know what I like about working with you as well? People see you regularly. They do their strength regularly. But what I'm finding is they don't then need to see me. And that's my intention, is to make my job redundant. Because wouldn't it be great to not have to go to a doctor regularly and get a script? You know, if that's all you need to go to a doctor for, that's a waste of your time. Wouldn't it be great to just see somebody building your strength, who might be whispering in your ear about sunlight as well, because they're following the research? In fact, there's a really good new book out called The Light Doctor. I'm trying to think of the author.
Yes, I've
It'll
just
come
bought
to
it.
me. Oh, yeah.
I've just lent it out to a client.
Moore?
Yeah, Mike, not Michael Moore. That's not, it'll come to me.
Yeah. It's fabulous to be able to prescribe lifestyle interventions that have scientific basis to them.
Yeah.
And I hate the use of the word evidence-based, because I got clobbered over the head time and time again by neurologists saying about Liam's medications, there is no evidence-based to this or evidence-based to that. And I found that it was actually something that became challenging for me to hear again and again, because I was actually following the science. I was following the research internationally and coming up with answers that they didn't know about, but they would try and jump on this evidence-based echo chamber that they would then use to either criticise me or judge me as a parent for somebody who was just looking for answers. And so I like to use the terms scientific basis, or follows the research, or and coming up with the papers or the books or the people that are talking about it. I just shy away from that whole echo chamber, because it became quite destructive to Liam. And therefore it was destructive to me. Yeah. But anyway.
No, it's
scientific basis.
I love your story about Liam and your motivation. And I think that we do all the talk. What is it that motivates us to, take on this big project next year?
Yeah.
Neither you or I are going to make any kind of money out of getting people in, starting watching the sunrise. Oh, I want $5 every time you watch the sun. Oh, we got 100 that are doing it now. It's great, Carolyn. We're rolling in money. There's something satisfactory, I always say, in my little shop. My longest client's been there from probably about 4.5 years, but I think the shortest one is 6 months, or and you've created that problem for me that I can't take on. There's more people wanting to come, which is a great problem to have. But there's something satisfying with working with people over time.
Yeah.
And I believe you have time as any kind of instructor or doctor. It takes a long time to build that relationship, and then to quite tease out the whole time. What can I do more with that person to perfect what I'm doing? Yeah. And then once I saw the light, it was almost like, well, if they don't watch the sunrise, that's just the biggest boost. Yeah. And carnivore diet, but obviously none of us want to push anything down anybody's throat. But it's also an opportunity. Every time people come to you and say, as you know, my first question is, how were you after last week? Yeah. Was there any joint issues? And usually that's all good, or there was this. But then they might say, I'm just so fatigued, or I've had a few people also, all of a sudden they were going good and they dropped off in their performance. Strength just went through the floor. Yeah. Illness? No. Change your diet? No. Any stress? No. And it was a couple of times, it was somebody, actually both times, started on statins.
Oh, interesting.
Or it was,
Yep.
it was either statins or it was a different blood pressure medication.
Right. Yep.
And so I was like, okay, that could, obviously I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to advise them anywhere, but we just together took note that was obviously there could be other changes, but that was the one we could sort of iron out.
Yep.
Anyway, this person kept going downhill every week. So he decided to go to his doctor and say, listen, I think this is interfering with how I feel. He went off it. 2 sessions later, back up to strength.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know where I was going with that, but it's when you know somebody, you work with them every week for a long time, you can actually talk about these things.
Yeah.
But now what's great, I can actually, as you know, I couldn't do that before. I couldn't say, well, if you want a doctor with get a second opinion, go and see Caroline, and that's happened, as you know. So that's kind of huge arsenal in my toolbox now too.
Yeah.
And we know those people, it's worked out great. So it's a really I'm very humbled to be having this relationship with you. So,
oh, awesome.
Yeah.
And back to the medication. So the statins, it is risk versus benefit, and the whole fact that doctors are just not given the time in a consult because of the way Medicare has gone to be able to actually get truly informed consent. So informed consent should involve a whole raft of a huge discussion about this is the risk of taking that medication and this is the benefit. And you've got a web page called Number Needed to Treat, Number Needed to Harm, where you can actually look up how many days of benefit can I get over, say, 5 or 10 years from taking this medication versus, what are the risks of taking this medication. Really, that's what you need to go through every time you think about a medication. But usually it's as simple as, I think, you've got a particular problem. Say you've got blood pressure, right, you need this drug, write out the script. There's 2 or 3 things that this might cause. End of discussion. I'll see you in 3 months. And that's usually it. Whereas, now we've got other options. You can try other things. So I think that's the benefit of the longer appointments as well.
Yeah.
And sure, if people want to take drugs, great. Let's find a way for you to safely take that drug. And how about we consider when might be a good time for you to get off of that drug, if you ever want to get off of it.
Well, I know specifically one client who said who'd been trying to get off of her medication, but her doctor never really wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
And she came back and she said, the first thing Carolyn said to me after I explained it, you said, well, let's see what we can get you off. Yeah. Instead of, so let's just see if it's working and keep going, prescribe you more. And she was so thankful to hear that for the first time.
Yeah.
And, that warms my heart, that, wow. And she felt like, I know she feels like she's got a real ally in you. And I know she's on your, do you want to talk about your health, is it your healthcare plan you put people on?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know she really appreciates that.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice to be able to do that and get people back regularly and just kind of...
And what does that involve when you say you get them on a healthcare plan?
So if they're seeing you as a regular doctor or a clinic as a regular clinic, then Medicare actually provides us with a reasonable payment so that we can spend longer periods of time and we can come up with a plan. I mean, every time you see a doctor, the doctor should be coming up with a joint plan, a plan that you have partnered with in order to kind of help progress to alleviate the distress that whatever that condition is that you've got. But a healthcare plan or a GP management plan enables you to sort of come up with goals and a pathway forward that might involve other team members.
And how often would they, you say on a regular, how often do they then come and see you, and what does that involve?
Yeah, depending on what the condition is, you might say 3 months, or you might say 6 months, or you might say 12 months, depending on how they're going and their understanding of the condition and whether they're needing to troubleshoot. Because I find particularly when you're reversing a metabolic condition like type 2 diabetes or fatty liver or polycystic ovary, then you usually want to see them fairly regularly. You might actually see them less than 3 months.
Yeah.
Just to enable to troubleshoot as you go. Yeah, I suppose.
And they see somebody else, I believe they see somebody else, because I know
Yes.
that person comes to me as well. So can you explain about what, we talk about Adelaide, obviously.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So she's a health coach.
Yes.
And so they see her and then they see you in the same day. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so our nurses, who are also health coaches, can then help that process, because we all have a common understanding of what is health promotion.
Yeah.
And that, again, it just kind of, I don't know, building a team where people feel like there's trust, there's respect, there's common understanding of health. And I think it gets rid of a lot of that confusion that people have had, and, well, people do have. I just know that people they feel like they're almost on this escalator where they can't get off because they've been, sent to all these different doctors. It's almost like a pinball machine where they just get pinged around, and there's kind of no end in sight, and it's like really disempowering for them, and they feel hopeless and helpless. And so I think by empowering them with information about their biology, talking about mitochondria, talking about energy,
Yes.
just the fact that Douglas Wallace does it beautifully, doesn't he? That bioenergetic model of health. Really, that's actually how we should be working, because that's the difference between a cadaver and a live body lying side by side. They might be perfectly still. Anatomically, they're exactly the same, but from a bioenergetic perspective, one of them is still generating ATP.
Yeah.
And so then if you work from that perspective up, it becomes so much more simple, doesn't it?
It does.
So what is it that our mitochondria need? And
well, it's all this stuff is it gets complex when you talk about it, if you get into the weeds.
yes,
But I always say that the application is simple.
yeah,
We can talk all day about the muscle fibers and what I do, and I do on the same path as you, because as you know, I can talk when you come in. But I feel if because, as you know, what we do is not fun, and it's very hard, and it's high stress, and I feel like I probably should have called the business the thinking person strength training, because unless you take on board why you're doing that,
yeah,
then you won't stick with it, because it is, let's not say unpleasant, but it probably is a little bit unpleasant in the moment, and you're not going to subject yourself to high stress if you don't think there's a damn good reason.
absolutely.
Now, the longer people stay with me, nearly every single one that walks through my door is in a cold sweat before they even start, because they know I'm exaggerating, but everybody nearly always goes, my day was good until I remembered I had to come for my workout, So, but what I'm trying to, if people stay with the system that I work with, because it involves discomfort, even temporary, unless you understand, you won't stick with it. And I feel like it's the same. If you just get told, go and get morning sunlight because I said so, they're not going to really, okay, well, that was fun. Oh, I couldn't be bothered today. But if you understand, this is essential.
Yeah.
Yeah? And then you start seeing the results, like these people just talked about it. Then you're going to stick with it. So that deep understanding that, like, your healthcare plan of, you're educating together.
Yeah.
Is the approach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it's going to be fun, isn't it?
It's going to be really fun,
Next year, working together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Building community, talks that stimulate conversations.
Yes, we'll try have not people fall asleep. So.
Empowering people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is you get the understanding of it, and then you have the power. You're not having to be told.
Yes.
Or confused who you should listen to. You've kind of got your own filter. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Should we call it a wrap?
Yeah, let's.
And I'll see you for your session Wednesday.